Hello, beautiful warrior, and thank you for listening to my passion project. Hi, I'm Linda Berger, and I'm a business strategist expert and businesswoman warrior tribe leader. And I consider myself bilingual, and when I say that, it's a little bit different in its meaning than the norm. What I mean is that I am fluently able to speak the language of business and spirituality on the level of the laws of the universe, your soul's path is in the Akashic records, and your big loving heart. Because I have a ton of experience, because I have had to fight my way back to mine. For years, I thought I didn't even have a heart. More about that later. But my life from as far back as childhood was dedicated to helping women feel empowered in their strengths and to feel empowered in their essence, the essence of who we are as a woman, that part of us that makes us different from everyone else in the world. That's our own special sauce, as I say. I always ask the universe to use me as a vessel, to help me design programs that really make it easier for women to connect to their inner power and to reach higher levels of their potential, but in a fast and a quicker way than taking the longest path. And there are so many bumps and holes and distractions. So I always ask, can you please send me and inspire me to create programs for women or talks for women that really help me to identify what their needs are and use my skills and talents to develop these programs in the most powerful and easiest way to follow. And that's how owning your seat at the table came about. So I hope that you will thoroughly enjoy this recording because I love it and the process works. I've seen it work on many, many women, and I want you to be able to do what you need to do in the world. Do that one thing or many things that just drive you and are relentless for you to where they won't leave you alone unless you start to move forward on it. And I want you to know that you are a magnificent being on this earth and that you need to do one thing and one thing only, and that will fulfill your legacy, your dynasty, and fulfill your heart, and that is to live your soul's path. And what does that mean? Well, it means a lot of different things because so much is involved in that. But most importantly, that you help the people you are here to help. And you connect with those that are here waiting for you to help you accomplish your big plan and to find those very special people in your life, the ones you call family and your friends and the children that you bring into this earth, or even those that you've adopted to share their lives. So I found that there's one really, really big area that stops women dead in their tracks from cultivating a rich life of experiences, of relationships, of health, and finances. And it's one big one, and it's called distractions. I'm sure you've had your fill of one or two, or maybe three of them. It's funny when I teach the 90-day warrior program, one of the first things they start to identify are some of their distractions. So you need to start identifying what those are because they are the ones that are going to pull you out of your seat at the table. So whether you distract yourself or you allow other people to distract you, the bottom line is that distractions will pull you out of owning your seat at the table. And of course, there are a million different kinds of distraction, but there's really just very few of ones that are commonly used. And I will talk more about that later. So my goal here with the recording, owning your seat at the table, is simple and single focused. I want you to stop leaving your seat of power. And so I will be giving you 3 keys to discover what triggers you, what pulls you out of that seat, and how it happens, and what you can start on changing immediately. And it isn't a one-step process where you change this one thing and you'll forever be owning your seat at the table. It's in every area of our life, and you'll learn more about that as we go on. So are you ready? All right. Well, great, because so am I. I love this program so much. That's why I wanted it to be a free download on my website. And this is what I do signature speeches on, and I develop programs around this because I love it, and it's easy, and you can do it. I know you can. So let me ask you this first question. Do you own your seat at the table? And how do you own your seat at the table when your life continues pulling you out of your seat? And third, and most importantly, what the heck, Linda, does that question even mean? Like, what does it mean, own my seat at the table? Do you notice that I use the word own versus take your seat at the table? I'm talking about owning. What does that even mean? I'm going to give you a couple examples, because those questions that I just asked you took me on quite a journey. And it was during the tumultuous times and moments of risk in my life that I thought I was, kind of just doing something I always did. Get into chaos, jump into a new way of doing something. I would jump from having real clarity over the plan of what I wanted to do to being completely overwhelmed and distracted. And I was like, how the heck did that happen? How could I be so clear one day, and the next day or a week later, as I'm moving forward, I suddenly become overwhelmed and I end up distracting myself? It just didn't make any sense. Sound familiar? I would think so. I've heard it by many, many, many women. There isn't a woman I've spoken to or work with that doesn't have something similar to this. So where I started reflecting about how is it that I can own my seat at the table and move through the patterns of clear on my plan, but then become overwhelmed and distracted. So then I realized I was leaving my seat at the table. But as I reflected on those choices that I've made and during those tumultuous times in my life, and also those moments of risk, I realized that I wasn't leaving my seat at the table. I actually owned my seat at the table. For example, after 18 years of marriage, I asked for a divorce when others thought I had the ideal marriage. That was scary. I could have just gone along with the program and stayed the way it was, which would have been me leaving my seat at the table. But because I made the choice that I cannot move forward in this marriage, that I need to leave it, I had to own my seat at the table, be in that point of power, know that I had a plan, but I had no idea how to accomplish that plan. And we'll talk more about that later. Or at age 54, I chose to get a bachelor's degree. I had never had the opportunity to go to school. I moved out of the home at 16 years old. I was on my own. I was pretty much survival all the way through. So I chose to live life on my terms. Was it easy? No. But you know what? It would have been a lot easier if I would have known that I was actually owning my seat at the table while I was making these difficult choices. It would have saved me so much time and shame and guilt. Was I making the right decision? Was I what am I doing? How could I be so selfish? All these words that come through our minds that are really someone else's. But if I would have known this information then, as I'm hoping it's going to help you now, is that when you make those difficult choices, you are owning your seat at the table. You don't owe anyone an apology. It's your seat. It's no one else's. So I chose each time I made a difficult decision to live on my terms, whether it was going to be an easy term or a difficult one. I was embracing my legacy. I didn't know what it looked like, but I knew that I was living on my terms and I was embracing my legacy. But I learned to make the journey to owning my seat at the table, not just in my marriage or in deciding to go back to school, but in all the areas of my life. And that choice continues to drive me to encourage others to do the same. Because I did it, there's nothing extraordinary about me. I'm just like most other women. I want to do more. I want to feel like I am achieving something, that I'm helping people, and it drives me. So why do I advocate for owning your seat at the table? And why am I building a tribe of businesswomen warriors? I'm building a tribe of businesswomen warriors because I cracked the code to the inner critic's voice. And I want to share it with every woman I meet. And I'm hoping that you will pass it on also, because I can affect change in other women through you listening to this recording and putting in action the steps I'm going to teach you. So when we own our seat at the table, we say yes, 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 yes to our inner warrior and to our life and our dreams. And we say no, get out of here, to the inner critic and to complacency. Neither one, the inner critic or the complacency, have any room in your life. Most especially not in the life of the businesswomen warriors. We use our courage and our discipline and our focus and our love for the world to make big changes. And that's the destiny of all women. We just have to own it. So owning your seat at the table, it's both a metaphor, but it's also a reality for our choices. You take many different seats throughout your day and even in your life. Think of Goldilocks. Some of those seats, too hard, some too soft, but your seat is just right. No one else can fit in it except you. The seat I talk about today is your seat, and no one other than you will fit in that seat. And if you don't sit in it, it's empty. It's as though the universe has a void. Let's take a journey to owning your seat in all areas of your life. Think about yourself, taking care of yourself. Do you own your seat at the table to set boundaries, to do things that nurture you, allow yourself to feel what you need to feel, think what you need to think, and then look at it and say, this is good for me, or this is something that needs to be changed? Owning your seat at the table is staying there. How about your business? Is your business the way you want it to be? Are you making the money the way you want to make it? Or are you listening to what other people do or say? What about your family? Do you have healthy boundaries to where you can take care of yourself in those situations? What about friends? Do you feel like you are coming from a PowerPoint in your relationships with your friends, your family, your business, yourself? How about your community? Education, your health, your life, your spirituality? There's so many seats that we have. I look at, for myself, that I'm on a chair with wheels, and I have lots of different tables that my life is part of, whether I'm sitting across from my family having dinner, or I'm sitting across the table in my business, or I'm sitting across the desk talking to my doctor, or I am sitting with my girlfriends having wine and dinner. We sit at tables all the time. So you're constantly sitting in different chairs. But those different chairs aren't your chair, your seat, your soul seat, the one that has your name on it and your destiny at it. That's your seat. It goes with you everywhere. And when we own our seat at the table, we say yes. We say yes to our inner courage, and we say yes to our dreams, because it does take courage to live your dreams. And you have to say no to that inner critic. And you have to say no to the status quo, doing it because that's always the way it's been done, or because that's what everybody else does, so I'm just going to follow along. That's complacency. There's no place for that in your life. There isn't. As women, I totally get it. We fight different battles, both internally and externally in our lives and our businesses. And at times, we wrestle with fears, lack of confidence, imposter syndrome, abuse, lack of boundaries. There are so many different areas that we struggle with, a lot of times not even realizing it. We just kind of are on autopilot. We start to numb out in our life. We struggle, some of us, to go to a new event. We feel lack of confidence, or we're not sure anybody's going to be interested in what we have. Will anybody really talk to us? Thoughts like that. I'm sure you can find yourself in some of these examples. Or we go on a new date. We are not quite sure if we like that person, if they like us. We start judging ourselves. Or what about if it's time to let go of a big client? They bring in a lot of money to your business, but you're just not feeling it anymore, and you know that it's time to let go of that client. It's a big risk. But when you sit at your seat at the table, when you own it, you know that it's the next step for you to take to live an even bigger plan. What about applying for a new job, or even up-leveling your business? So some people struggle to get to $10,000 a month in sustainable income. Why not try for $100,000 a month? It's still a struggle. Why not struggle bigger? Struggle more. Own your seat at the table, and the plan will come to you. What about asking for help? I hear so many women that I speak to, especially as a coach, that I know that they need help, but they're afraid. They don't have enough money, they don't have enough, they have too many responsibilities. There's always different reasons why. And I look at it, because I used to be the same way, I look at it as I'm not owning my seat at the table. I'm allowing myself to get up and be distracted by all of the noise around us. How about for some of us that need to call a therapist? Maybe there's too much anxiety in our lives, or we're starting to feel depressed. We have to own our seat at the table to be able to pick up the phone and dial it. That's what you're doing. You're owning your seat at the table. How about ending a marriage? Like for myself, I thought I was being weak and selfish, but in reality, I was owning my seat at the table. There was something inside of me that knew I had to do that. And how about going back to school? So many of us are going back to school the older we get because we want to learn new things. How about sending our children off to college and feeling that empty nest syndrome? How about just being alone? Feeling alone? What about losing a spouse or losing a child? or even losing our livelihood. That's scary. That's really scary. Too many women have battle after battle after battle that they wake up to every morning. And as a result, they play too safe and too small. And that's an example of not owning our seat at the table. Excuse me. I see women playing this game of musical chairs with their mind. And when the music stops, there are more than enough chairs because remember, your chair nobody else can sit in. It's yours. So it's going to stay empty until you own it. So there are more than enough chairs after the music stops. But they will not sit down to claim their chair. They want to see who will take the seat first. Every time you abandon your seat at the table, you have to build up your focus and your energy again and again and again. It's exhausting. Just when you start to feel the energy building up in you and the power and the ideas and the dreams starting to come within reach, you get up. And that focus starts to dissipate. And then you have to go whenever it is that you get back to your seat to own it. It could be minutes, it could be hours, it could be months, it could be weeks. You have to start over again because it's now completely dissipated. Now you've got to build the energy up again. So I ask you, why do you play musical chairs with all the seats in your life? Why do you wait until everyone sits down before you take your own seat? How many women do you know that play too small? How many women do you know that play too safe? When you look at them and you think, you've got so much to offer. If you could only see what I see, you would not be wasting your time. You would be getting to work, or you would be applying yourself, or you would be going after your dreams. If you could just see what I see. Well, turn that around and look at yourself. We all know that these women play it safe to keep themselves, well, safe. Safe financially, safe so that they can still control, safe so that they won't get hurt, safe meaning that there's a safety net there in case they start to go in the direction of their dreams and they fall. But I'm here to teach you how to take control of your life and your choices and your dreams by starting to own your seat at the table. So you're actually going to start the owning process. And it is a process because we sit in a seat in every table that we have in our life. So as a business coach and a business growth strategist, I've worked with women since that's my business, and I've studied how hundreds and hundreds of women entrepreneurs run their businesses. And the part I was really curious about is what or who is their biggest distraction or distractions. And I found what pulls them away from their power source. And I've discovered 3 common influences that lead women to the process of owning their seat at the table. And it's really a simple process, and it's so obvious, but it's so difficult to, 1, become aware of, but 2, become very diligent in following it. So the first part of it, and the most important, is mindset. You have to have the mindset to own your seat at the table. You have to be ready. Like, I don't care what happens. I'm going to make my choices from my seat at the table. And your second is the plan. See, once you're in that seat and you're owning it and you're staying put, the energy is building to formulate your plan. And the third step, the third key, is strategies. So I like to use the infinity sign because it's really a great visual to show how energy flows. So if you have one of my cards, you can see that the infinity sign is in there. And how I explain it is in the middle where the infinity sign crosses over is your mindset. And on one side is the plan where the loop is, and on the other side where the loop is your strategies. So imagine that for a moment. Every plan we create must endure mindset. Every strategy we create must go through mindset. The mental, emotional, physical, spiritual demands of entrepreneurship set it all in motion and set it all on the line. So the movement starts. You're sitting in your seat, you're owning your seat at the table. You're in mindset. You're like, I'm going to do this. This is a great idea. I know I can put this together. And the plan starts to come together. You start getting intuitive hits. You start getting ideas. You write things down. You're starting to see a real plan. So then it goes from plan. It's got to cross over the mindset. And then it has to go from mindset into the strategy, which has to cross over mindset again. Every choice we make must go through all three stages. Planning, then through mindset, then through strategy, then through mindset again. In owning your seat at the table, your plan must be able to pass through mindset twice. This is where you get stuck. Either the risk is too high, the plan is too big, I'll never be able to do that, this is too much for me, my husband will never agree, my parents will never agree, there's no way I can do this, if I fail I'm going to look ridiculous. So now your plan has not made it past mindset. And now you're stuck. The distractions happen because once you get stuck, you lose your focus, you lose your energy, and you get up from your seat at the table. And the distractions become your excuses, which lead to overwhelm and negativity. Distractions look different for all of us. The shiny object syndrome, lack of boundaries, the pull of imposter syndrome, toxic environments, toxic relationships. I'm sure you can name a few if you haven't already recognized yourself in some of these. So what happens is, with the infinity sign, when you can't pass mindset, you're going to jump out of your seat. So you have an opportunity. First, you're sitting at your seat, which is usually pretty obvious. But to get the plan through the mindset again, you have to go through the plan's loop, and it crosses over mindset again before it goes to strategies. So you haven't even gotten to strategies yet, like, how am I going to put this plan together? What are the strategies? So if you get triggered on the plan, then you're going to notice that you're out of your seat again. So what's it going to take for you to stay in your seat and let the plan guide you? Because it's your plan. It's your seat. It's your plan. It's no one else's plan. You're the one that came up with it. You were the one that was inspired by it. You were the one that was led to it. It's your soul. It's your heart trying to say, hey, pay attention to me over here. Please stay seated long enough so I could show you what you're capable of, show you your potential, show you the love you have in your heart for humanity, that you would be willing to risk so much to stay here in your seat and listen to the whispers we have for you as we show you your plan. And trust us, we will give you the strategies and the people to help you fulfill this plan. But what we need from you is your attention. So please, please, please own your seat at the table and don't get up to distractions. Trust us. That's your inner self talking to you. For myself, it was my husband trying to convince me, Linda, just go get a job. You work so hard, you're focused, but you're not bringing in enough money. And I became so overwhelmed with trying to please him, and also at the same time being true to my vision and my plan. It was overwhelming. And every time I would start implementing one of my new strategies, all of a sudden the doubt from his words would fill my mind. I would get triggered, and guess what I would do? I would get out of my seat. I would go get a piece of chocolate. I would watch a Netflix show, or I would start Googling jobs. All that accomplished for me was to get me out of my seat, to take me out of my place of power, to disconnect me from my intuition and stop me from moving toward my plan. I would end up being depressed and feeling lost. And this went on for years. But at the same time, my hope would just keep rekindling, would reactivate me, and I'd go to sit at my seat at the table again. That was all I really wanted to do, was just stay in my seat at the table and focus on my plan and the strategies I needed to take to manifest that plan. All of this negativity reminds us that we think we have to have permission, or we don't have the right to own our seat at the table. Think about that. All the negativity that goes through our minds, goes through your mind, reminds you that you don't have permission or the right to own your seat at the table. Your mind is racing, saying, how dare you? Who do you think you are? Who gave you that seat? You have champagne taste and beer budget. Do you think you're better than us? You are so selfish. You used to do these things for us. Why don't you do them anymore? These are toxic words, and they're phrases, and they take up way too much real estate in our minds. The one quick way to evict them forever is to own your seat at the table. Own it. Don't take it, because why take something when you own it? Owning your seat at the table is really an empowered position that can be risky. And it can be very risky to your relationships, because, trust me, they will change. And change for anyone is risky. And owning your seat at the table produces enormous change. You make decisions based on 3 things: the information you're getting, planning that information out, and strategizing to accomplish it. Allow yourself to stay in your seat long enough to discover who you are, what you are to do, and where you can gather the necessary information to accomplish your dreams. Your mindset tugs and tries to pull you out of your seat. I'm telling you right now, connect with your inner warrior and fight back. Use your inner warrior shield to deflect those toxic words coming toward you. and use your warrior your warrior sword to cut through your own negative thoughts. Stay in your seat. Please stay in your seat. I'd like you to imagine for a second, you're up in the sky and you're looking down on Earth. And as you're looking down at Earth, you're seeing all these spots of light. I mean, there's millions of them. And you're thinking to yourself, what are those spots of light? I want you to think of those spots of light as women that have gotten out of their seats. And when they sit in their seats, they are being filled with their light. They're being filled with their soul and their heart and their intuition, and they're learning their path. They're learning their purpose. So as more and more women own their seat at the table, the lights don't shine out into the universe. The light shines through them, as it will through you. So let's get more practical for a moment here. For example, let's talk business. Let's talk money. So let's say you plan on making $10,000 a month for the next year, or maybe you already make $10,000, and so let's say you want to make $50,000 per month for the next year. Then you want to increase it by $5,000 every month for the year after. Now, that is a plan. Okay, so you're sitting at your seat at the table, you're owning your seat, and you're going, it's time to really expand my business. Instead of $10,000 or $30,000 a month, I'm going to up it to $50,000 per month. So now that's a plan, okay? Now I ask you, what's the strategy? So this plan, you're really into it. You're like, yes, I am going to do this. It's not too big. I can handle it. So now think of you sat at your seat at the cross in the crossover area in the infinity sign. So you sat in there and said, this is what I'm going to do. Great. The plan, you decided what the plan was, that you were going to do this, but now you needed strategies. So you're looping around from the plan, and it's going up to crossover mindset. But this time you're like, I am so ready for $50,000 a month. I am working my way up to $1 million. So I am going to do this $50,000 a month. Now it passes over. The energy is clear. It passes through the mindset, and now it loops into strategies. Oh, strategies. These are the biggest triggers for mindset for women. This is where you hear, I'm not enough, I don't have enough money, I don't know enough to do this plan's too big because how am I supposed to do this? I'm by myself, I don't have any staff, blah, 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 blah. And I want you to tell yourself in your mind, when that starts happening, when you've made it past the mindset and into the strategy, I want you to say blah, 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 because that's what it is, blah, 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 okay? So you're not going to get triggered by the strategy size. So, how do you get the plan to manifest? How do you manifest $50,000 a month in your bank account? That's where the strategies take over. And you go, but what strategies? I don't have a clue. This is like a pie in the sky dream for me. Maybe for some of you, but not all of you. So your seat at the table is your own special seat at the macro level in the universe. Remember I was telling you about when you look from above down, and at the micro level, it's in your life so that you can tune out the noise to become completely captivated by the moment. You find a place to conceive an extraordinary plan in your life and experience your business on your terms. So now you want to experience your business in a bigger way, $50,000 a month. And owning your seat at the table allows you to find out what causes you to get off your seat to start making change happen. So you know that if you are making 10, 20, 30,000 a month and you want to make 50,000, you know change is going to happen, right? Without a doubt. But what change is needed? That's the part that triggers us. We're afraid to be in that vulnerable place of not knowing. And when you get to the strategy part of your infinity sign, when you get past your mindset to go into strategies, what you must be comfortable with, and you need to write this down at some point, is you need to be comfortable with not knowing what you don't know. Being comfortable with, let me say it a different way, being comfortable with, I don't know what I don't know. So you want to write that down. I don't know what I don't know. So, going back to your plan. So you don't know what you don't know about making $50,000 a month, right? But you can't let that stop you. You have to still go into the strategic part to find out what type of strategic action you need to take in order for you to manifest the 50,000 per month without getting triggered by your mindset when it crosses over. Make sense? So think about it. You owned your seat at the table. You decide what you wanted, your plan. Now the plan was solid. You felt good about it. Now it goes into strategies. So this is where you have to own, I don't know what I don't know. And what will happen is you will start getting intuitive hits, or people will start showing up in your life, or business opportunities will start showing up that you had never knew were there. It's almost as if they were in plain sight, but you couldn't see because you didn't know what you didn't know. You didn't know that they were there, but you didn't know that you didn't know that they were there. I know that sounds crazy, but that's true. So when you can step back and let go of control and allow yourself to be okay with not knowing everything and not knowing how this is going to manifest, but to be active and action-oriented and very, very strategic on the steps that you need to take that are outside of your realm of understanding right now, or outside of your realm of knowing right now, and be okay with that, then the strategies start to show up. Maybe there's something new you need to learn. Maybe there's a new part of your business that you've never been educated on before that would help you gain more income, gain more clients. That would show up. Maybe a mentor, a coach, a teacher, a class, or a business partner. Who knows? It could be anything, because you don't know what you don't know. But I can tell you from my experience with the soul and with the heart is that pretty much a lot of the stuff that goes into our plan is hiding in plain sight. That's why I want you to get really comfortable with being okay with not knowing, being okay with not knowing what you don't know, because then you can start to learn what it is. And look for signs. Look for things that, maybe something shows up once and you don't think about it, but then all of a sudden somebody mentions it again out of the blue. And then by the third time, my rule of thumb is if it's 3 times, you better act on it right away. And maybe you don't have any clue what it's about, but start investigating, because that's your soul and your heart working together to drop breadcrumbs to get you to develop your plan, so that you can turn around and get the next phase of the plan. So when you own your seat at the table, this is where the magic is. You give other women the courage and the permission to do the same. So allow your daughters, your nieces, your sisters, your friends, your coworkers, your aunts, your grandmothers, your mothers to follow your lead. Be the first one. And owning your seat at the table. And I want you to know that there's a difference between owning and own. Even though they both lead to own, But owning is active. There's always a higher level of owning. There's always a new need of owning. There's always a new mindset for owning. There's always a new plan for owning. So here's some examples of the power and wisdom of how do you own your seat at the table. Here's a few. How do you own your seat at the table to leave a marriage? How do you own your seat at the table to ask for help or call a therapist? How do you own your seat at the table to hire a mentor? How do you own your seat at the table to say no to abuse? How do you own your seat at the table to love yourself enough to give up what you've always done? How do you own your seat at the table and say no to the noisy world to gain back your family dinner time? How do you own your seat at the table to say yes to going back to school after 50? How do you own your seat at the table so others feel they can do the same? How do you own your seat at the table to build community? How do you own your seat at the table to feel whole? How do you own your seat at the table to lead by example? How do you own your seat at the table to take care of your family financially and emotionally? How do you own your seat at the table to learn your purpose in life? How do you own your seat at the table to get off the hamster's wheel? How do you own your seat at the table and stay seated long enough to allow the magic to unfold? How can you, as a strong woman, find the courage to own your seat at the table? This has been such a pleasure for me to be with you during this period of 45 minutes or so. Thank you for listening. But I'm Linda Berger, and I am here to help women owners thrive by owning their seat at the table. So good luck. If you need me, reach out, because I am here for you, and I am an expert at owning my seat at the table. Thank you, and have a fabulous, fabulous day.